This is the Tabernacle Podcast with Heidi Burgess and Rachel Vore again.
Part two.
This is part two. So if you're just tuning in and you did not listen to episode 219, that was part one of Heidi's Change Life story. And as we said before we started recording, I'm super excited for part two. Excited to be here. Thanks for coming back, both of you. We don't have as bright of colors.
Oh, I learned my lesson. So.
No, the lesson was great. Okay, full disclosure, that shirt was fine. It actually made her not disappear into the background.
There we go.
And whereas I am wearing blue, I did not get the memo that it's...
matching green.
Yes,
green.
Olive green. So, so we're going to jump into part two. Where we left off was after Tim and Heidi's first date.
Yes.
And before we get there, a scripture that Heidi had shared with us was from Jeremiah 1:7. The scripture from her confirmation in the Lutheran Church before she really felt like she had a personal relationship with Christ, if I remember correctly. It was like that was like the foundation, but it wasn't until Campus Crusade that it was like you felt like there was a fire lit, you know. And who knows? God knows, right?
Right.
We know there's a fire now.
Yes.
A bonfire. But Jeremiah 1:7, but the Lord said to me, do not say, I am only a youth. For to all whom I send you, you shall go, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. And as I was thinking about this, I have seen that verse like the fruition, the fulfillment within your life. I've only known you for the past 23 years, but your ministry at the church, with staff, with women, in counseling, at services, running interference for me. I've seen you speak into my life. I've seen you speak into my wife's life, to speak into so many people's lives. And it's just interesting to me that even though you're no longer a youth, that whatever God has commanded you, you shall speak, which is pretty cool. And then I picked up two other scriptures because I was thinking about in episode 219, you were very adept at pointing to these moments where you saw either God directing, like looking back, you can see how he directed you here and there, and even through some of the very tough experiences that you shared with us. Deuteronomy 31, verse 8, it is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. And then it ends with, do not fear or be dismayed. But many times I read that scripture looking ahead.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to put on the glasses of looking back. And even though you may have felt fear, or at times you shared dismayed, like, am I ever going to be able to figure out relationships, for example, or fitting in? You talked about that song from Zach Williams and Dolly Parton, All Along There Was Jesus.
Yeah.
And so the Lord was going before you. He was with you, even
when I didn't know it and couldn't see it.
Even in the drinking games.
Yeah.
You know? We often think that, in the depth of my sin, I was so far from God. And I've changed my thinking to, in the worst gutter that I find myself in, he's right there with me. Thanks, Brennan Manning. Right? You know? And he did not leave you or forsake you. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
So where we left the story was this image. We're in Arizona. You've had the first date with Tim, and the next day, is this guy for real? You biked all the way back to the camp, and there he was, probably in blue jeans.
Oh, yeah.
With
holes.
Hands in his pockets, long hair.
Shirt.
Did he have a beard at that time?
Oh, no, he couldn't grow a beard
till later.
20 years ago, yeah.
So no beard, long hair, big smile. He's waiting for you. The sun at his back. We don't want to end there because the journey, part 2, 3, or 4, whatever it is. Yeah. So in that moment, if I can take you to that moment, where do we go from there?
I think I said I never pictured my life without him after that moment. And so, like, we did normal stuff. So what I realized about Tim is he knew how to have fun, and I had gotten so works-based, like performance-based, that like even the things I did for fun were competitive. And so if you didn't win, it wasn't as fun. So I remember one day we walked down to the elementary school and we're swinging on the swings, kicking our shoes off, seeing who could kick the farthest. He was always great at creating a game or something spontaneous and joyful out of life. And that was something that I needed built back up in me. And he had a huge love of music, so I had an adequate stereo. He had a stereo with stuff on it that I couldn't turn his stereo on.
He had hi-fi.
Oh yeah, he had like the receiver and the woofer and the tweeter and the hoofer and the speakers and the.
I don't even know if those are real things, but I'm with you. Heart and soul, I'm with you.
And when he actually, so we spent the fall together of 1981, and so like two significant things because of the baggage I carried. At one point, we were building a friendship and we were being physical together, but he's like, I can't do what we're doing anymore because I'm uncomfortable. I didn't understand what that meant for a man, but what I heard, not what he said. He was willing to change, like to just back up a little bit physically so he could maintain a level of purity for us. But that's not what I heard him say. Because of my past and the lies I believed, I felt like that meant we'd have to be done. So I went to Planned Parenthood and got birth control, and then we took the next steps. And I think he was more surprised that
Really?
I offered that because that wasn't what he meant at all. And so then we got good at that too. And we're still living in separate cabins at the same Christian conference center, me going to school, him going to work. And then he got mono, and he got really, really sick. And so he ended up, because he couldn't work for like 4 weeks, so he ended up getting on the bus back to Michigan. And I'm like, well, I'll try to come see you at spring break, right? That's what I thought. So he left probably November, and then over Christmas break. So this is how you know somebody really loved you. Because for Christmas, he sent me a gift now. I hadn't dated many people, but the one person that I was still in touch with over at Christmas, he gave me slippers for Christmas. So then I knew, like, don't give slippers unless you've been married and you know that's what she wants. Slippers. So that was a memo of, oh, okay, this is where we stand. But Tim sent me a necklace with a heart on it engraved with his initials. So then I knew.
Tim the romantic.
Yes.
Did you see that coming, Rachel?
I did not see it coming, but kind of at the same time, because there's a lot of people that I've met that they were just players, growing up. But then when they meet the one that they are fully in love with, they change. They almost want to protect in that same way. So, but you didn't see that as a sign before of like, you just thought that maybe he was stepping backwards until the heart came, or then I realized he had a romantic side to him. There you go.
Because he's pretty practical, spontaneous in the moment. I mean, most of our dates were at the bowling alley bar where the beer is the cheapest, and 50-cent pitcher and dime beer night and stuff doesn't build a lot of romance into your relationship. I think by that time he had already said, look, I know that you're the one, so I'm never going to dance with you again. I really hate dancing. So you can dance with anyone you want, and I'm like, no, I can't. You don't understand dancing. But, so yeah, he had a romantic side that I didn't know about.
I'm going to hold this against him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
But then he was still in Michigan and I was in Arizona. And then he was going to come back out. He talked another friend into moving to Arizona again. So he was going to come back out with his friend. And I remember thinking that I would like to be able to take a step back in the relationship and build a friendship, but I didn't know how to tell him that. So I didn't ask for it. I mean, he would have been fine. if I could have just said those things, but keeping him was more important than taking the risk at communicating. So he moved back out. He went to live with my parents in Phoenix, got some jobs that were not fulfilling, and ended up moving back to Flag and living with me in my cabin at the Christian Conference Center, which after a little while, they asked us to change that. It didn't, and we weren't mad. We were like, yeah, no, that's, you really gave us a lot longer than we deserved. So at that point, we were going to move into with one of my classmates. And I said, we should tell our parents that we're going to move in together. And he's like, you can tell your parents whatever you want. We're not telling my parents anything.
So to fill this in, if you haven't heard Tim's changed life story, Tim is the youngest son of probably the largest church in Traverse City at that time, the Faith Reformed Church. And he said he's the prodigal son that moved to Arizona because alcohol and the drinking age and access to other extracurricular
legal or illegal activities.
Legal activities. Yeah.
So I remember saying to my mom and dad, and I don't know why they were driving and I was in the back seat, but he said, so Tim and I are going to move in together. And my mom just looks at me and goes, how is that any different from what you're doing now? I'm like, okay, well, I just thought you should know.
Yeah.
And
checking the box, following the rules.
Checking the box, following the rules. Guess I didn't have to say that out loud. I don't know. So then fast forward to, we had a 1 week with school. I had a 1 week I had to go work, be in Yuma, Arizona at an internship thing. And we were apart for a week and then we came back together. He picks me up and we're driving back to Flagstaff and he says, I said, oh, my sister-in-law asked when we were going to get married. And before graduation or after, and I told her after graduation, he looked at me, or before internships or after internships. And he looks at me and says, we're going to get married before internships. And this was in April. And I said, well, if we're going to get married before internships, then I'm available in August or January. And if it's August, you need to tell me in 2 weeks.
That was the proposal.
Yeah.
What happened to the romance, right? Tim? I take it all back.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So then we chose January. We let people know. People were aware. And one of my classmates married his best friend Dave, who had moved out with him in the beginning, and they got married in August. And Dave's parents were close friends with Tim's parents. And so they came out for the wedding, and we were just normal.
That was the first time you met Tim's parents?
No, these were Dave's parents.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
And I was honest and open, and we didn't hide anything. There didn't seem like there was anything to hide. But they went back to Michigan and told on us. Do you know Tim and Heidi are living together? And so Tim shares this in his changed life story too. But so I'm sitting listening to him talk to his mom on the phone. And his mom says, yeah, everything's fine. He's fine. And then I hear this, yes, Mom. And then I hear, Mom, you and I never talked about sex when I was living with you. I'm not going to talk with you about sex right now. And then he says, if that's how you feel, you don't have to come to the wedding. And he hung up. And I'm sitting listening going, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law thinks I'm a tramp. This is awful. She's going to hate me. So, and he was dead serious. He's like, if they're going to be judgmental, they don't have to come. And we'd asked his father to perform the wedding. So I wrote his parents a letter, and I was very naive. And they were very gracious, but I just wrote, it's okay. God and Tim and I are all right. We're okay. God's in a good place. We're in a good place with God. It's okay. And 2 weeks later, his dad sent us the premarital counseling questionnaire, and it was never spoken of again. So in January, I met his parents on a Tuesday, and his dad married us on Saturday. Friday when we were discussing this ceremony, what do you want in? Who's going to sing? Who's going to... So I said, yeah, you know that word submit? We're not even going to put that in the ceremony. You don't even need to say that because that's not going to happen. And his dad was just like, okay. He was very patient, very gracious. All of Tim's fears about his parents being there didn't happen. And he was really guarded, like any minute now it's going to happen.
Yeah, the shoe's going to drop.
Yeah, but they were very gracious and lovely and fit right in. We didn't have a dry reception, so they came for a while and then they left. And yeah, so
they did the Irish goodbye before it got rowdy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's a question. Yeah, because you said I was very naive and wrote them a letter about me and Tim and God. We're all good. And then, and I'm not trying to jump to the end of the story, but what would Heidi today, like, there's a reason you use the word naive. Like, what would you have said to her if you could go back in time?
Well,
because I also understand there's a process. That's what we've been reading, and most likely Heidi then wouldn't have listened to a word that you said.
Well, right, and so I hid behind this excuse. He's a preacher's kid. If he thinks it's okay, we do it. It must be fine.
Oh, gotcha.
So I wasn't looking any further than that. We did try attending a church within the first few months that we were going out, and I thought it was kind of a cool church. I thought it had been good, and he wasn't having it.
This is not Warren Burgess.
No. Of
the typed sermons and the perfect theology.
I didn't
what
realize,
a legend. I love as Tim's dad and mom. Yeah,
they were great people, and I didn't realize there was that sermon thing that mattered.
Yeah.
And Tim would say that he was, I listened to his Changed Life stories so I could deal properly with some of the parts that are coming up.
Or as Darcy would say, to correct some things.
But he would say he wasn't saved. But he knew God. He was just so mad at religion and the false messages that he got that you're either hot or cold, right? He was not lukewarm. He was hot in anger, but he knew who he was mad at. Yeah. And so he says I wasn't saved till this, whatever. And I was like, yeah, you were. Yeah. You were.
No, that's interesting, though, because it points to another thing is, I grew up in a tradition where you had to know the moment that you were saved. And if you couldn't do that, you're probably not saved. Yeah. So it was a fear tactic, in my opinion. There are some people that, I call it decisionism. If you can't point to the day and the time and the moment that you cried at an altar or you recited this prayer or what have you, and I think we're messing with things above our pay grade. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. And that's why I'll say things like, how much faith does it take to be saved? Yeah. It isn't how much faith I have, it's who my faith is in. Yeah. Faith the size of a mustard seed, can do what? It can move a mountain. Well, the mountain of my sin. So that's just interesting to me. Yeah. That, you know.
So in answer to your question, what I would say is you believe this in your heart and you know the right things to do. So young Heidi, it's time to start living them. It's time to start living them.
But how cool is it too? Sorry, I don't want to detract this too much, but there's a lot of people today talk about church hurt. Just like today they talk about veterans that come back with like we know what to call it now. PTSD. Well, the World War II generation, they didn't know what that was. They just didn't talk about it, or they drank, or they were violent, or dealt with anger, or they buried it. If anyone knows what church hurt is, it's Tim. But they didn't have a word for it. Yeah, it was just he was mad. Yeah. So
and I didn't have any church hurt. Even the senior citizen church that I attended as a youth, the service was lovely. It
Yeah.
still spoke to me. And so I didn't have any hurt. And my young experience in church was wonderful.
Yeah, but I love how Tim was like, if this is how you feel, then you don't have to come to the wedding, right?
Yeah.
He already was, with his past, he's putting a hedge around you.
He's
Yeah.
leading.
And he's leading. And
Yeah.
he said, you will not get my bride. You
Yeah.
know? And so already that was a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen always in this beautiful linear fashion.
Right.
No.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you see the pieces.
Yeah. And I'm glad you pointed that out because he would not necessarily give himself credit for that either. Yeah.
So you're married,
We're married.
Arizona.
We got married, and then 6 weeks later, I left on internships. I was gone for 3 months. I took one internship in Traverse City so I could get to know his parents. How better to get to know your in-laws and go live with them for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So still bulimia is an issue. In that core shame, I'm walking, and this time there were believers that at the PTs that I worked with at the hospital, they were all believers, all about my age, strong young Christians, and I made a different choice this time. I chose to be curious about where they were and not judgmental, and they did attend faith, so I would see them at church and stuff because obviously I went with mom and dad to church when I was staying with them. And so I was willing to be curious. I did make that choice that time to move in that direction. Made some good connections, and then Tim flew out, and we drove back to Arizona together, finished school, graduated, and took the highest paying job in Arizona I could find. Because so back to Tim having fun. So our first Christmas together, I patched his jeans for his Christmas gift. And he gave me big inner tubes that cost $3 from the gas station for us to go play on the hills. And he blew them up and wrapped them in newspaper and put them under the tree. It was like, that's one of the best Christmases we've ever had because he knew how to make it fun. So then we moved to Yuma, Arizona. Flagstaff has weather, has 4 seasons, has snow. Yuma, Arizona has 361 days of sunshine a year. And Tim took that for about 2 years. I felt like we were beginning to be grown-ups, moving into an adult world. So I had my 40-hour-week job, and then I took another job doing home care services, and then I took another job working with a student that just needed in-home therapy a couple days a week.
So you're working 3 jobs.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Right? And Tim was going to college at the junior college in Yuma, Arizona, so I mean, we were living the dream, and he was going to grow up, and I was going to grow up, and we were going to live happily ever after. But, and so as far as alcohol went, we'd go out to dinner, but I would only ever have 2 drinks because I had to go to work the next day. And even on a Friday, I didn't want to drink that much because I didn't want to spend Saturday hungover. And then, I only had 2 days off. And I thought he would shift too. And so he did when I was around. And it was different when I wasn't around, but I didn't know. Because I didn't ask. Yeah. Yuma was good, except that he really needed the changes of seasons. And so there were 2 God sightings in there that stand out to me. We tried a little church in a Quonset hut in a date palm grove.
Oh, that's the most Burgess thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah.
And there were probably 20 people in attendance, which was pretty glaring, like spotlights on us.
Hey, new people.
Yeah. And
Young
the pastor
couple.
did call on Tim a couple times. I was always at work, so I didn't talk to me. But twice, I think, the guy came and visited, and Tim finally just said, you don't have to come back because I'm not going to come to your church. But we tried. And then because the place I worked, they attended the Episcopal church. They were great mentor couple. But one day I was like, I just bought new tires for my car, and I got this check from the home care thing that's for $220, and that's how much the tires cost, and I wanted that money to be free for me. And she looked at me and she said, but God provided that for you, so in advance. He had the money there for you in advance. I was like, oh, I could look at money differently. And that was really new for me. And so those seeds were planted in Yuma. I got offered a job back in Traverse City to work at their outpatient orthopedic clinic they were opening because of the connections I'd made earlier. And so I knew Tim had a bad relationship with his folks, and we needed to fix that. So we're going to move back to Michigan for 18 months because we moved here in July, and I'm not moving back to Arizona in July. That's just dumb. And if I put up with the whole Michigan winter, I'm staying for the whole Michigan summer. That was my plan in 1985. And obviously, we're still here because God doesn't tell you everything. Right? We had the U-Haul for 5 days, so we had 3 days to find a place to live here. And somebody came to church Sunday morning and said, we drove past a place on the peninsula that has a for rent sign. So we went that afternoon after church, and we found a house on the base of the Center Road, Center and Bluff on the peninsula, and we lived there for 2 years. And it was perfect. It was a great place to live, great place to start. We started our family there. And then we were in a position to buy a house because that's what the next thing adults do.
Yeah.
And so we bought a house on 10th Street. And we had one child at the time. I was still working full time. I had found a Christian daycare. So I was doing it right. Right?
You're going to Faith Reform.
Going to Faith Reform every Sunday in the morning, every Sunday night. I usually went by myself. Tim would come in the morning, but one was enough for him. And I would go into the church and I would look and go, I want to fit, but I don't know how. I guess I have to be like those ladies, like the hair and the dress and the makeup which is not, nobody there told me that. Right. That's how I felt. I felt like an outsider. And so we, where does it go next? I got involved in things there. I got involved in the drama ministry, not creating it, but dramatic presentations. We joined the Bethel Bible class, which I remember sitting in that class, and there was a man who was an emergency room doctor, and he knew the stuff. He knew the Kings. He knew where all the books of the Bible were, and was like,
he was a Bible nerd.
I want to know what he knows. Yeah. And there was a lot of memory in that. I was really good at that. And then they also offered a competition if you wanted to. After you completed class, you could go to nationals and see who knew the most verses.
That's right up your alley.
I know.
Because Heidi's a knower and competitive. Yeah. And it involved drinking.
No. And it was like Bible. So it had to be only great, right? And actually, Tim and I took that class together. And he made it through Genesis. So we're getting to the point in our lives where I'm working again a lot. And Tim's working at the gas station, and there's just like I just wanted him to love me because I didn't love me. And that's all he had to do for me was love me, and I would take care of everything else. I didn't want to be in a relationship until I knew I could provide for myself. So he didn't need to be the provider. I could take care of us. I just needed him to love me. And so we had our son, and I'd been gone to work, and I came home late, and you have to listen to his changed life story to hear this whole thing because it's painful.
I know the moment.
Yeah. and I don't want to speak for him in this,
Yeah.
so I'm speaking for me. He was not coherent when I came home. I didn't know what he was talking about, and he was in charge of my child. And then he, after a little bit, went out and passed out on the living room floor. And so I packed a bag for the baby, and then I packed a bag for me, and then I unpacked my bag, and I packed my bag, and I unpacked my bag, and I said, just go. So I took the baby in his bag and got in the car and went to Tim's parents and said, I don't know what to do. We're stuck in this cycle, and I don't know how to get out of it. And they were very wise, and they knew what to do. And his dad made some calls. Later in the, I feel like it was still dark of morning, but maybe it was earlier. Tim called and he said, I want you to come home. And I said, I will come home, but I am not bringing our child home to a house like this. I couldn't do it for me, but I knew it was the wrong way to raise a kid.
Yeah.
So he went and did the assessment. They said, we have a room. You can come in on Thursday. I went and did an assessment. I only got 19 out of 20 on the codependent test. I was a little sad.
You wanted to be 20 out of 20?
Except the 20th involved domestic violence. And,
yeah.
So, in jail time, we didn't have any of that in our history. So, yeah. So we did, I remember dropping him off. Like he had this crappy old-fashioned suitcase, and he goes in down the hall, and they shut the door, and he's just gone. And I'm like, all right, what do I do now? And so they give me the schedule. This is when you can see him. These are all the appointments you need to go to. Like I needed to go to a counselor. We needed to go to a marriage counselor there. This is when family day is. This is when this is. And you need to go to Al-Anon. And
So Tim's enrolled in a recovery center.
Yep. He's behind a locked door.
But you're finding out, there's stuff for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And I remember going to my first Al-Anon meeting and going, I was so pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so he has the problem and I get another chore.
Mm.
This is just the way it is. This is the problem, is that I keep having to pick up his messes. And that was kind of the first safe place it was to say that's how I felt. And they let me talk. They didn't let me stew in my anger. Because they'd all been at a similar point of saying, I can't live with alcohol in my home the way it is. I need to figure out a better way to live, which involves changing me.
No, change him.
Exactly.
I'm good.
I was there to learn how to fix the problem and change him and make our marriage better. That's why I was there. For a good 2 years until I finally went, the only thing I can change is me. And I really need to do that. But they talk about the God as you understand him. Well, they said they start with a prayer, the serenity prayer. They end with the Lord's Prayer. It's like I walked into that room going, these people know the God of my understanding. We all understand the same God. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And I felt more comfortable being honest and vulnerable with them than I did with the people walking in, with the congregation upstairs. So church basements are where a lot of the Al-Anon meetings are, and I was happier in the basement than upstairs until I learned how to walk in upstairs and go, they don't have their poop in a group either. They're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We're all the same. And they may know more Bible verses, or they may have walked this path longer, but we're all on the same path. And I found a way to freedom. And it was through the 12 steps. And I remember one of my friends in Arizona, when we went back the first time, she's like, I'm so sorry you married an alcoholic. And I'm like, oh, no. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I wouldn't have ever looked at me, because I'm a recovering perfectionist and a control freak, and I got A's in that. And that's a really lonely way to live. Because I didn't believe if I admitted I made a mistake, I was admitting I was a mistake. There is no difference between
it was wrapped
those
right
two.
up in the identity.
Yep. Yeah. And so...
and that's the perfect storm, too, of when I say perfect, I really mean perfect. You're in the middle of a storm, but everything about your personal journey, your personality, the home you lived, oldest daughter, perfectionist, all those things, and here you're marrying the youngest, right? Talk about birth order, that personality, church hurt, you're just wanting to find a church, and then you put those together, you have the perfect storm of alcoholic and codependent. It was like the poster children for what this is going to be. But what I want to highlight is what you said is you're not living in regret.
No.
Because of the journey that took you on, which is a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like the mentor at the Episcopalian Church who said, I just wanted to spend that on me, but look how God provided. You know, it's So
it's the
great
twist.
highlight. Wow.
It's the twist.
Yeah.
And
what God meant, or no, what you meant for evil is what Joseph said to his brothers. God meant for good.
Yeah, exactly. And so a huge part of that spiritual transformation happened. So I went to the treatment center whenever I was allowed to be there, which meant Sunday afternoon, Tim's primary counselor hosted a worship service. And so, of course, I went just so I could go sit by Tim and hold his hand. And we're going to worship too. And there was nothing like physically attractive about the human being that was offering the worship service. And I was embarrassed on his behalf when he led us in song, because there was no accompaniment and nothing. And he made a joyful noise, but it
was more
noise.
A
little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And originally I was embarrassed for him. And then I realized that is the purest form of worship I had ever experienced, is to just be that raw and vulnerable in front of God and be able to do it in a room full of misfits, hoping that we catch a glimpse of the glory that he was sharing with us. And that cemented in my heart this man's place in our lives for till death do us part.
I think I know that man.
You do. Yes, it's the great Joe Kelly.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast.
Yeah. And Ben, important to the Tabernacle, and he was really important in
in my life and my wife's life. Yeah, absolutely.
He spoke at the Reformed Church Recovery Conference because we connected him with Tim's sister, and so a lot of Tim's family embraced recovery in different ways. And about 2 years in, I was still using bulimia as a coping mechanism. And then I let myself get caught because I was like, I'm not really getting enough attention here. We need a crisis, because that's what codependents want. The adrenaline rush of a crisis. Okay. So crisis is, all right, so I'm sitting talking to him. Yeah, I'm still doing that. And what do we do? And he said, very calmly, whatever you need to do, that's what we'll do. If you need to go to treatment, you can do that. If you need to whatever. And it's like, I know what I need to do. I need to work the steps. I need to grow close to God. I need to change. I know what I need to do. I don't need to go to a treatment center and be the star of the show in all the ugly ways. I know what I need to do. And so I went to we didn't have like a anorexia bulimia 12-step group in Traverse City, so I went to Overeaters Anonymous. It was much like what Tim shared in his story about at the treatment center, seeing how hard other people's lives were that drove them to self-medicate. I had that same experience at the Overeaters groups of like, oh my gosh, I've not had any of the terrible things you've had in your life. And it wasn't, I did struggle with, okay, so then why do I have this problem? Am I good enough to have this problem?
Do I qualify to be here?
Exactly. But I have it. So, but it helped put things in perspective of I have had a very blessed life. There are more good things in my life than bad. And I need, if I can focus on those things and growing and changing, it'll be all right.
And what that also shows is that enemy doesn't have to use those big things to make us have like the hardship, right? Or to run to something to self-medicate.
Mm-hmm.
It was the consistent noise in your head of you don't fit in, you're not welcome in certain circles, or you need to do all of the things to be perfect or to show that you're perfect. That still is a level of a way that the enemy can come kill, steal, and destroy.
Yeah.
To keep you from being fully who you are, who God has called you to be. And so it's a way to keep you trapped.
Yeah.
Right. And so it doesn't mean that you have to have any of those circumstances or situations that the other people that you're seeing, right?
Right.
Like, it's just a way that the enemy can help you or to convince you to
Right.
stay
It could have
hidden.
driven me further of, see, you're so weak that,
Right.
Yeah. And I think in the Zach Williams song, in the waiting and the searching and the healing and the hurting, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. You were there. And part of my counseling experience exposed an episode that I don't recall from being 3, where it was, there was an older gentleman who was very inappropriate with me as a 3-year-old. And I remember saying, because I'm pretty logical, okay, Jesus, so where were you when that happened? Like, it wasn't blaming, it was, hey, where were you? And he showed me. He was holding me, and I was safe from the waist up.
Mm-hmm.
And he was there.
Yeah.
And I could see him holding me and keeping me safe. It's like, okay, you were there. I see you. Tim mentioned we did the soapbox thing the first few years of recovery. And so as I was learning stuff about me, I was just so excited. I was sharing with my family, sharing with my parents.
That's what the soapbox thing is.
Well,
when it's
and
this
thinking,
is the greatest thing ever, and
if
everyone
you
needs
observe
it.
this, you need it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had shared with I actually checked in with my parents. Were we in a home like this when I was young? And they validated that we had an older couple babysit us. And I said, I think this happened to me while I was there. And a couple weeks later, my mom called and said, yeah, we did the catch-up thing. And then she said, your dad had a dream about that man. And he dreamt that he went to a nursing home and found him, and he was in a wheelchair. And your dad beat him to death with a baseball bat. I said, thanks, Dad. Because then I knew, just like you mentioned, Tim was protecting me with that. My dad would have protected me if he had known.
Gotcha.
And he just didn't know, and I didn't have words to explain. And
So was it at that? I mean, was that a memory that was vivid, or was it brought up in counseling, or was it just a suspicion?
It was brought up in counseling. Like one night, I felt like I needed to cry. So I went upstairs and cried and cried and cried. And all of a sudden, there was this black hole. And it's like, if I fall in that hole by myself, I'll never get out. So I called my therapist and said, I've never asked for this, but I think I need to see you extra. And so she just helped me through a exercise to recall what had happened.
Wow.
How old were you when you had that conversation with the therapist?
33. Yeah. 33 or 34.
Interesting.
And I'd say
Were the
that
pieces all starting to come together a little bit?
Yeah.
Isn't there something that where if there's a childhood memory
Mhm.
that there's almost like a breaking, like that it's almost like amnesia in a way, but then
Yeah.
when you get into your late
30s,
20s and
yeah.
30s, that those pieces come together because you're safe enough to, like that they just kind of start falling, and then that's when the memories start. Or so you just saw this black void. Is that a thing that they teach you in birth therapy or whatever? Because I've heard that many times. Haven't you?
Yeah, it's happened to me.
Yeah,
It was
like
33
your 30s.
was like the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I shared on the trauma podcast just a few episodes ago that recently I had another where it's not clear, but something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I know the beauty of that is then later on, so I picked this Christian daycare for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't guarantee anything. So at age 4, he said to me, "Mom, I just don't think I want to go back there anymore." I'm like, "Well, what's the matter?" And it was just, I don't know, I just don't like it there or whatever. And it's like, buddy, sometimes we have to just do things we don't like. It's okay. And then in the process of our second son arriving in our life, this son realizing he and another sibling would be in the same situation, our firstborn said he told the daycare provider he was going to kill himself, and this other little boy was going to chop their heads off with an axe, which is an alarming statement to hear. So we did all the right things. We took him to a psychiatrist. And with all the information we had at the time, we were going through the process of adoption. She put me on Prozac and said, it's probably related to the stress of the adoption. And when that calms down, you'll be fine. And the next day, our next son was born. So nobody had to go back to the daycare. The Prozac did its thing, whatever. I'm off for 3 months on a maternity leave. And so then a year later, when our oldest was 5, the daycare closed because the provider injured a child, set him down too hard in a chair, bruised his back. Mom took him to the chiropractor. Chiropractor reported she agreed not to do daycare anymore, the isolated incident, whatever. And we go on with our lives. I mean, we had supported this person, like we did all the right things and that kind of stuff. Shortly after that, my dad was diagnosed with cancer in Arizona. And so we went out. I took the little boys out as soon as school was out so they could go spend time with their cousins. My parents were really good at making sure we got out there once a year so the cousins could all hang. Mm-hmm. They had 17 grandsons, and 13 of them were boys.
Wow.
Yeah. Now they have 20. Yeah, and there's a few more girls. But but my dad was way more sick than my family realized. None of them are medical people, but he'd lost like 65 pounds. He had esophageal cancer, and then another disease called dermatomyositis, which comes with that, so it attacks the muscles and the skin. So when the cancer was in remission, the other thing was active and back and forth. And my parents are professional educators. My brothers are physical laborers. Nobody had a medical experience but me. When I got there, I was like, you guys have been lying to me. But they weren't lying. They were just going with what the doctors told them and not asking any more questions. So went to the Mayo Clinic with my folks for a checkup for my dad, and the doctor asked them 5 questions, and my mom asked 3, and then they were all done. And I'm looking around the room, I go, "Are you done?" He said, "Oh, yeah." "Are you guys done?" "Yeah." "Okay. Well, my dad has bed sores. My dad can't get up by himself. My dad can't." And so before we left, we saw 5 different specialists for each of the problems he had that they would not have addressed, and nobody would have known.
Right.
And he had to take a medication one night a week that made it so he couldn't sleep all night. So my dad was a doer. He didn't say a lot. He would hug you or hold you, but the way you knew he loved you is for the things he did for you. And he couldn't do anymore. So I had a couple of nights where I got to sit up with him all night and just talk. It's probably the most conversation I'd ever had with my dad. And I told my siblings before I left, being the bossy big sister, I hope I did it delicately. They can correct me if I didn't, but I took them all out in the backyard and sat them on the lawn chairs and said, look, Dad has always done for us to show us that he loves us. He can't do now, but he can talk. And if you guys waste that time, I'm going to be so mad at you. You need to make time to be with Dad and talk. And they did. They stepped
That's not
up.
bossy big sister. That's the reals. Yeah, no, that's good.
And at that time, God was dealing with me, giving me the courage to say things with gentleness and respect, and help my family walk through this thing that was so hard. Both a house across the street and a house next door were for sale when I was there. And I came back and I said to him, we might need to move to Arizona. We might need to go help. And he's like, whatever we need to do, let's think about it. And it took about 4 to 6 weeks to pray about it and realize where I was, Michigan was home. And yet I needed to go out more often. But this is where I needed to be to come back, refresh, recharge, so I could go out and be the sister that they needed me to be out there. My little sister was hands-on. My brothers really stepped up. They weren't killing it out there. I didn't need to be in the way. I just needed to go and support. So that summer, that's August, we used to go camping in Empire Township Campground. So we're in a campground before cell phones, walkie-talkies are available, and payphones, and that's all. We're camping, and the people who own the campground came out and said, excuse me, are you these people? Because we have someone that called the campground that wants to talk to you. And so I go on the payphone with enough quarters, and I call my family, and my dad was in an intensive care hospital. And my siblings felt like they were being asked to pull the plug. So what they wanted to know is, should they wait for me to get there? And I'm like, let me think about this and call you back. So I got the name of the doctor, and I called the doctor's office in Phoenix. And I'm talking to the receptionist, explaining I'm in Michigan, I'm camping. My dad's in intensive care. They think they have to pull the plug. Can you give me any information? She said, well, it just so happens that the doctor is going to do his rounds at the hospital right now. And I think he should just be getting there. Let me put you on hold. So she calls the doctor to the hospital phone, connects me with the doctor who just walked into the hospital. And I explained the situation, and he said, oh, no, that's not what we're asking. He needs to be in this drug-induced coma for a while to fight the pneumonia, but he should be fine.
Oh, wow.
We think hot prospects are good. And I'm like, should I come? And he was so kind and personal. He told me he talked to me for 10 minutes on the phone on his way to do his rounds, busy doctor. He said, with my father, when he was sick, I went and he passed, and I was glad I was there. With my mother, I went, she didn't pass, and I was glad that I was there. So from a human perspective, I don't think you'll be sorry if you come. So 20 minutes later, my brother calls me. He's like, how the hell did you do that? You're in Michigan and we're in Arizona, and we can't even get a nurse to talk to us, and you talked to the lead physician. Like, I don't know, God is good. So I did go visit, And I remember the feeling in the airplane, like being up above the clouds going, I'm completely removed from all the chaos in my Michigan world of being a mom of 2 young kids and what's waiting for me in Arizona. And I can just be peaceful up here in the heavens with God, because he's going to prepare me for whatever I need to do. That visit was brief. My dad was in that hospital for like 3 months and got out and went home. We spent some time with him the next summer, and then he went on a hospice in November of 94. So we went out. I went out with my second son was baby, or it was 3, and I got to help my dad fill out his do not resuscitate paperwork. And he's like, Heidi, I don't want to die if I don't have to. And I said, I think that's what we told him, Dad. And then I got to give him, help write his funeral. He's like, I had never, I knew my dad had a faith, but I didn't know he knew these things. He's like, I want Proverbs 31 read at my funeral because I want people to know what kind of wife your mom is. And I want that John 14, where I go to prepare a place for you. I want that. And that there weren't a lot of spiritual conversations I'd had with my dad. I did have one that was contentious over the summer. So a devotional had said, it's good to write out your faith. So I thought, I need to write my folks a letter. I'll write them a letter about my faith, which I feel like I pretty much said what's in the Apostles' Creed, which we say in the Lutheran Church. Yeah. So I thought I was good.
Yeah.
I got a letter back, the front, because my dad could not physically write at that time. So I get a letter back. On the front, it's from my mom that says, I don't know why you have to question your dad's faith. I don't know why you guys have to argue. I don't know why you do this. And then, love, Mom. And then the next letter is from my dad in my mom's handwriting saying, I'm afraid you're becoming judgmental and religious and all these things. And then I don't know why you had to tell us all those things when you were early in recovery. They really hurt us. About the abuse and then my awareness of a kid and their parenting and all that. Love, Dad. And it's like, it's the first time I knew that my dad could be mad at me and still love me. And so a little bit later, I wrote back and just said, you're right. I was not gentle or kind or thoughtful about you guys when I shared those things with you. And I'm sorry. I said, and all I can say, Dad, is that I hope when my children come to me someday and say, when you were mom, you did this to me, that I can do for them what you did for me and say, I'm sorry. If I had known it hurt you, I would have done differently. Thanks for being my dad. Love, Heidi. So we had that prefacing the going out and helping him write that. Also on that trip, it's the only time I remember my mom not picking me up at the airport when I came to Arizona. My brothers came and I walked into their kitchen and my mom looked at me and said, Heidi, I know that God is with your dad while he walks through the valley of the shadow of death, but who's with me? And that's one of the moments where the Spirit just speaks and I'm like, Mom, you're in your own valley. He's with you. And we had that chance. So all the faith God was building with me in Michigan, I had that gift to give my parents when they needed it. And it was really beautiful. And then my dad, he was on hospice 9 days. We left on Sunday. He died on Wednesday. So we were back in town on Saturday, just him and I, for the funeral. And my little sister at the reception said, I don't know I always thought we'd beat this. I can't believe that Dad died. And I remember thinking, God, I never felt that way. I just wondered how long we would have him.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the matter with me, God, that I didn't think that? Like I wasn't like my little sister. And God said, I don't need two of her. I need you and I need her.
Yeah.
I don't need you to be the same.
Yeah. She wasn't the one called upon to help him plan the funeral.
Yeah. And they did. My siblings were amazing for both my parents all throughout their lives. And they were their day-to-day people.
Yeah.
And I became the drop-in.
Yeah.
So I never left my parents without saying what I needed to say after
Yeah.
I got into recovery.
Or writing it or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
And you probably wouldn't have had the tools with that or without having gone through that journey.
Yeah.
With Al-Anon, with your own, dealing with your own stuff.
Yeah.
Because even with your own kid, I mean, the grace that you somehow, or God somehow provided to even be able to deal with that, because there may have been more than one baseball bat reference.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because we didn't actually discover the effect it had on our child until after my dad had passed. So between the time that child was 5 and 7, 9, I don't know, whatever grade you're in, he was writing suicide notes in his journal at school. And so the teacher alerted us to that fact. And luckily we had specialists on hand and called those people back. And there was a suicide watch. Our insurance would not, they would have hospitalized him if our insurance covered it, but it didn't. So we spent 2 weeks, one of us with that child for 24/7 for 2 weeks, getting the resources set at the school, with the outside therapies, the psychiatrists, the medications, all of that. We were so well cared for. The school social worker gave me a book. I'm sure she was a woman of faith, but couldn't necessarily express that in her profession. But the blessing of having a challenging child and just acknowledging that as a mom, there's some extra energy that comes with that. And you will be blessed according to your need. And I was completely, I was pregnant with our third child at the time that we're going through this chaos. And that's a whole blessing story because I had 10 years between full-term pregnancies, 2 losses in between. So I have a pregnancy that I'm not sure is gonna, and then we have a child in great distress, and then this other beautiful child that's trying to figure out what in the world's going on around him. And we just were so incredibly blessed by the support through our church, by the support through the schools, by the support through family, and in that journey, the 9-year journey it took for our son to get out of that. But basically, he put himself between the naughty children and the daycare provider. And that was his role. And
he was the protector.
He was the protector, and he put himself in that position. And he still does in a healthy way now, a very healthy way. He is the defender of his siblings and all small children and anybody who needs a baseball bat. He would be happy to wield that for them if needed. So then at the end of that pregnancy, knowing I'm going to put another child in daycare while I'm dealing with this, then I went back I saw Joe Kelly as my primary therapist because I didn't have time to mess around. And I had seen a grief counselor, and by the end of seeing the previous counselor, I got to the point that if I didn't want to talk about hard things, I didn't have to.
Yeah. Let's cut to the chase.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like Tim and Joe had always pushed him, and it's like, I don't have time to mess around. I need to get this done. And Joe was so gracious and so kind, but he's like, you need to write a letter to that provider. Joe wept with me. Like, as I'm telling him, just factually, here's facts, Jack, what's going on. I look up and he's just got tears coming down his face. And it's like, he could cry for me when I couldn't cry for myself yet. So only he knows what was in that letter. And then by the grace of God, I was not eaten up by hate for her. I had true forgiveness in my heart for her. Because that's how I could move forward. It was a different journey for my husband, but for me, I couldn't carry that too. I had to let it go, and God graciously took it and gave me a different heart. Not that that's a person I ever ran into again in any significant way. So that was good, but yeah. And the assurance in that time, sitting with Tim's dad and saying, but what if we can't keep him safe? What if he does kill himself? And that assurance from his dad that that's not an unforgivable sin. And that this child that God had given us age of decision, all that stuff, he's fine. And there was a point during that first year where, we didn't let him out of our sight if he wasn't at school with the trusted professionals. And we were at church one day, and at Faith Reformed Church, they don't do altar calls. That's not a thing. But that we're in the second or third row in the middle, and our son's between us, and it's like we're praying, and they're like, if anybody needs to come forward to make a commitment of faith, you're invited to do that now. And all of a sudden, the squirrely kid's moving by us, and it's like, panic. And he's like, I need to go up there. Like, so we let him, we're watching, and he just goes up front. And then afterwards, we asked him, so what was that about? And he said, I just thought people might need to see that if I could go up there, they could too.
Still protected.
Yeah. Yep. He was still protected. And there was a lot of chaos over the next several years. And like so I did talk to all my children who are grown adults now. So where their stories they're adults, their stories, I want to be very careful not to tell their stories. But I have permission from all of them to share as I need to. And like, there was a day where this child was so distraught with the PTSD that I'm sitting on his chest so he doesn't run out in front of a car. I'm holding a crying infant, and I'm asking my middle son to go get the phone so I can call Dad. And God watched out over us through that whole thing, through all those experiences. God was faithful and cared for us and gave us enough wisdom in the moment to do what needed to be done to keep everybody safe through that whole chaos. And so this year for Christmas, side note, I went through a big barrel of pictures so I don't have to store them anymore, and put them into albums for my children. And it was really important to do that because there's so many just normal, everyday moments in those photos of them going off to school, or them sitting on the heat vent with their T-shirts blowing up, or to be reminded that there were very peaceful days in between the chaos. Because it's easy when you look back to go only remember the bad stuff. And so God, if we're going to talk about the faithfulness of God and what God did in this testimony, is my husband grew as a leader in that time in our family because he could help this child calm down the best. And And so
He was the kid whisperer.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was. And we had an incredible principal that just so happened only to be at that school the 5 years that our son needed him. We had some magnificent teachers that loved our both kids in that school well. One just letting him be a normal kid, not connected to this chaos, and the other accepting the chaos and growing the beauty in him. So we were incredibly blessed. But Tim really grew as a leader in that time. And all along, God had been prodding me, I will grow him if you will get out of the way. Mm. And so early on, that's what I had to do was go, all right.
Hands off.
Hands off. And then Stormy O. Martin, she wrote The Power of the Praying Wife and stuff. And so instead of nagging at him to pray with me, I would just pray by the bed before I crawled in to go to sleep. And I had no expectations what he would do. But that was also when the prayer of Jabez thing was a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently I made up my own because I can remember what I used to say. But bless him indeed. Give him every blessing from your highest heaven that he can have that I ask for. And expand his territory. Grow him into the man that you want him to be. Keep him grounded in your truth, for your word is truth. And that's not what's in Chronicles, but that's what I prayed.
It's a good prayer, though.
Mm-hmm. And I prayed that over my kids, and I got out of the way of between God and Tim as the translator and the whatever. So we did lead a 12-step group, 12 Steps for Christians, which was a great place for me to sit and hear my husband's heart without talking back, because I was good at that. I did have a group of 3 other women in my church that one was 20 years older, one was 10 years older, there was me, and then one 10 years younger than me. And that was a great group of women over 2 or 3 years that we just poured into each other. And I learned a lot about just being a wife and a mother who follows Jesus. And the gentleness and respect and it's okay to just be me. I don't need to be Dottie. I don't need to be Joyce. I don't need to be Nadine. I just be me. And they loved me for who I was in the midst of that chaos. And that was a beautiful thing. Right before we moved to Buckley, Purpose-Driven Life came out.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Faith was doing small groups based on Purpose-Driven Life. And so Tim agreed to be part of a 6-week limited group, small group. So we went to that group. And we left and we were like, yeah, that was kind of cool. That was all right. Nobody got burned or hurt or ashamed or anything. It was good. And we went back the next week, and across the board, they were like, that's the deepest we've ever gotten in a Bible study. And Tim and I are looking at each other like, that's not even a good AA meeting. Right?
Yeah.
So that
the
whole
basement meetings. Mm-hmm. Yeah, jealous.
Right. So so he had a form of leadership in that meeting as far as he wasn't the leader, but he would go first.
He would lead the way, going deep.
Yeah. So that was a good group. And then those people kind of, one turned out to be a realtor. We were trying to sell our house. We bought this property in Buckley. She ended up selling it for us in a week for an ungodly amount of money, which was amazing. And those people just kind of stayed in our lives for a couple of years as love and support for coming out here. Some of them even bought Bibles for the youth group.
Oh, yeah,
and
back
stuff
in the day.
After we got going.
So this is where you moved into the camper. Tim's going to build a house, and you're living the dream.
Yep.
On the compound.
Yep. Yeah, we have a garage, the old, and it wasn't set up. dining room table, refrigerator, computer in the corner, little living room, TV, and then the camper where I cooked and stuff. Outhouse in the back with cold water washer and a little 10-gallon water heater for showers, and one stall outhouse. And so the plan was I would go to work 3 days a week and Tim would build with the kids. And he tells the story about the swing set, so go back and listen to that. I was a little bit terrified that on his first day at work, building our house, he took the kids to the store and built a swing set. But remember, it was Tim and his ability to play. And I have often told our children, you have no idea how lucky you are that you have a dad who loves to play, because he does.
Oh, yeah.
And
served him well when he became a youth pastor.
Yes, it did. It did. So after about, it seemed like a good plan when we made it. I'll go to work, you and the kids build a house. But after the first week or two, he looks at me and he said, I can't do this without you. I need you here. You complete me. And like my heart was like, you don't have to say anything nice to me for 2 years. That is like the best thing. And so I canceled the work that I had, or didn't take any more on. I don't remember. But then we were both, that was June. We were both home building the house. And we were the subcontractors.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a contractor that did the house, but we dug the footings. We poured, the cement truck came and we poured the cement. My brothers are block layers, so 2 of them came out. We mixed mud. We carried bricks. And my brothers laid the block. I transported drywall and plywood in my Astro van.
I remember the Astro van.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We pulled tubing, we pulled wire, we did plumbing. And we had, I left out an important step. I chose to be a stay-home mom after our 4th child was born. And remember I said, I just needed him to love me because I could provide for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I took that leap of faith to go, I'm going to get out of the way and let him provide. And for a year, we lived on his insurance, which covered everything but $350 medication that our son needed to be on. And so every month for a year, we got a cashier's check for $350 from a different postmark. Until he was off the medication. So God was just showing, if you will.
And you have no idea who that is?
Nope.
Nope.
I will provide for you. I am your father. I have a cattle on 1,000 hillside. Mm-hmm. Let me just slaughter one for you, okay? And so that I was a stay-home mom. We were homeschooling at the time, which was a blessing for most of my children. One of my children wasn't so happy about that decision, but later he came back and said moving to Buckley was the best thing you did for me. Mm-hmm. It took him a long time to get used to that idea, but
at what point did you wander into the Tabernacle?
So as the homeschool group,
sorry, I'm not trying to make it off the tab, but that's where
the homeschool group that met in the Buckley area did a lot of their activities at the Tabernacle in the T1 old-fashioned building. And so I knew several Buckley families from that. So I'd been in this building, and then I knew you were opening the youth center at the firehouse and
the alternative service.
Right.
Popping off.
Yeah. And there was going to be a youth group, and I remember even coming to you. You were getting in the car with Chad and Clayton, a little white car, after, and I'm like, excuse me, but I have a teenager that just ran away from home. It'd be really great if you could talk to him. And it wasn't the time, but
sorry.
That's okay. It was good.
I was probably like, I don't know what to do here.
Exactly.
I didn't go to pastor school.
Right. I don't do runaways.
Yeah.
It's not my job. But so later that summer, then I had said, and this is in Tim's story, so I'm not making this up. We were sitting. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go to church in Buckley. Do you want to come with me?" And his words, I could get my nagging wife off my back if I went to church once. And so we attended. You were preaching, and he was smitten with, what is this guy? What is a preacher with this high caliber doing in Buckley, Michigan? And from there, I didn't have to nag him anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was in the firehouse.
Yeah.
And if I remember, I didn't preach it very often.
No, because as we came back, you didn't speak often.
Right.
But then somehow we were volunteering with the youth.
That's right.
And then
The
he heard you speak
firehouse.
more often.
Let's
Yes.
go. All
Yes.
these threads start coming together. We just had Tracy and Haley on, and that whole story. She would have been right in that mix at that time.
Yeah, like the first time I saw Tracy in church, I thought she was one of the youth group girls that was pregnant.
Yeah, I know. She still looks like one of the youth group girls.
She still does,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, so we got connected volunteering with youth group.
And I got to say, Tim and Heidi were a gift because I didn't know how to build teams. And we're surrounded by all these students, and it was good to have adults in the room. Yeah. And not just adults, but people that, not even counting what you knew about the Bible and Scripture. And Tim is a sermon junkie, as he would say, a connoisseur. He would listen to even sermons driving alone in the car, But people that had been through what you had been through, nothing at the firehouse freaked you out.
Right.
Because we had, at the beginning, there were some nights it was mayhem.
Yeah.
We had kids, it was just a place to be.
Yep.
They're not all the little churchy kids.
No.
They were the basement kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm out of my element. And now you have two people that are unflappable. Like, they're like, oh, this is nothing.
Not even batting an eye.
Well, I'm glad that's how it looked.
Oh,
I remember the first night that there were like kids. I felt like I was in high school again going, oh no, the cool kids are going to go in the room and I don't know what to do. So that's when we made up name tags and icebreaker questions.
Tags. Yeah.
Because then I had a reason to interact and I got to know their names.
I remember that. Yeah, then that was not my idea. But it was perfect because I'm terrible with names. Heidi's great with names. To this day, if Heidi's around in the crowded lobby, I'll be like, Heidi, who's that person? She already knows. She's the memory bank.
She knows.
But somewhere along that line, it would have been over the next 2 years. I remember having all of the student leaders. We were at Ed and Marcy Pearson's home in Kingsley, and I was about to announce that, okay, I've done what I came to do, which was the homage to my wife's church and tiny little Buckley, and I'll be moving on. And do you remember that awkward moment? Like, and everyone's nodding.
And I'm like, oh, he's a holy man. He must be doing the right thing.
The only one not nodding is Tim.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw his leadership because he essentially said, while everyone's nodding, yes, John, we get this, oh, Holy One, which is all sarcasm if you haven't picked up. He called BS.
He said no, and I'm like, oh
he said no.
He's doing it again.
Yeah, he said no. He said, no, you're not doing this. And then I was like, a no man. And for whatever reason, I was attracted to that. And it didn't change the decision, but we started a conversation of just, I'm going to calm this guy down. And,
well, he said anytime I get close to someone, spiritually they leave. And you're not leaving me.
Yes, that's what he said. And then it was a few months later where I'm actually in Indiana with my wife, and we actually drove through some neighborhoods. Just like, oh, could we imagine living here? Because this is a city and this is an airport, and I'm thinking I'm not going to be with the cold, and I'll be close to my family. And Nothing concrete, but it was somewhere during that time that Tim made the call that he was going to leave his job to fill the empty the vacated youth pastor job, which was a very part-time job at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on behind the scenes there?
I remember being very happy to be in Buckley, very happy with what we were doing, happy homeschooling the kids, watching Tim being less and less content at work.
And somewhere in there, the copy of The Barbarian Way came in.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why the rhino.
Why I wear a
here.
rhino.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Deeply impactful for me.
Yeah.
And I remember giving a copy to Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And if my memory's correct, we went to dinner or something, or I saw you at, and I was like, oh, did Tim read the book? And you said, no, not yet. And you said, I read the book. Like you read it first and then gave it to Tim. And you said, I'm a barbarian. and she said that, or you said that Tim started the book and then threw it across the room. And you were like, but don't worry, he'll finish it. He knows, something to the effect of, he'll get there, type of thing. So I don't know if you want to fill in that part, or if I messed up.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
so I'm glad
you said,
did.
oh, Tim threw the book across the room, but he'll finish it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was interesting because I listened to his Change Life story so I would tell some parts correctly. And the chapters that stood out to him, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that chapter. But the one that stood out to me was the rhino.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that rhinos, if they choose to run together in the same direction, they're called a crash.
Yeah.
And the potential energy they would have if they would go the same direction is amazing.
And they run over 30 miles an hour. They weigh X amount of tons, but they can only see
30 feet ahead of them.
30 feet in front of them. They have the worst eyesight.
Yeah.
That's why they're called a crash.
They trust whatever is ahead of them. They're bigger and stronger and faster than.
Yeah.
And it's like that's how I want to run my Christian life, is I want to run knowing that God's with me, and with God, I'm a rhino. And I can't see what's at 31 feet.
Right.
Which is the name of our worship band. Our youth group band was
31 feet.
Yeah.
But Tim quits his job.
Mm-hmm.
And
and then the provider thing. So I'm like, all right, so if I work 3 days a week, I can make what we need to cover. So you go ahead and quit your job and I'll do that. Mm-hmm. The first, I was a substitute PT.
Mm-hmm.
Always a demand. The first month that we were going to do that, God said, you need to know that I'm in charge. And there was no work for a month.
And Tim's already quit his job.
Tim already quit his job.
Youth. Yeah.
And all our bills got paid. And then God said, okay, now you can go to work. And that's where the homeschooling shift happened.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, because Tim said, well, he said this in his podcast, I taught my kids how to get their work done fast so we could play. My wife taught my kids how to be students. So the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
They did. And I had said, so my side of it, I'm prayerful. I'm like, God, I will do this for you. So I will work. And then after a couple years, and I'm still needing to work to balance the budget, I'm like, you remember the cattle and stuff? And he's like, you never said how long. I will let you know when it's time. Like, all right. So I got burned out on my promise to God before God lifted the call. And I just had to trust. Like, okay, I did promise, so I'm going to work hard at not being grumpy. And I don't remember how far that was into things, but I know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the cool way my flow went here is there were a group of moms that would drop their kids off at school, and then we'd go to the firehouse and do exercise videos together. Mm-hmm. And that was a good way for me to connect with them, to get to know them. And like to I've never done exercise videos in my life before, but it was competitive, so I could do it. And then we'd come over for staff meetings, which we had in the Buckley Bar at that time.
Yeah.
And then Thursday was exercise, and then our 12-step for Christians group for women. We had a group, and then would go out to lunch and then whatever. So when my kids went to public school, I ran away from home. I could not be home alone for 6 months. So I'd drop them off at school and go do and all the come things. Serve at church. Yeah. Served my face off because it was saving my life because my house was empty and scary. That was for real. That I could not be home alone after having the kids all home together. Because that was, I remember a moment at our last house where the 2 older boys are going up to the bus and the younger kids are playing in the driveway and going, this is it. This is the moment I've wanted all my life. I have everything I've ever wanted in life right now. I have you, God. I have a husband. We have a home. And I have these children and I'm home with them. This is everything I ever wanted. It's just, that's the peak moment in my life. And so then when the younger 2 went to public school, which was a good thing for them, it was the right transition.
I got to coach them.
Yeah.
In soccer.
Yeah, and they wanted to play soccer. That was really hard to have that stage of life over. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that was a transition there.
And so if you're wondering, the podcast listener, I didn't leave. Mm-hmm. God had a different plan. Mm-hmm. Tim and Heidi took a massive step of faith. Because I think when Tim quit his job, there was no job. There was no paying job yet at the Tab.
Nope.
But then I find myself being asked to be the lead pastor, and my first phone call was Tim, and I was like, "We're doing this." And then we take not to rehash his story. This is about your story, but we took a drive, and it was this moment of, we're 2 preachers' kids that never wanted this job, never longed for it, never pined for it, and always could tell you everything that was wrong with church, even though we both love the Lord and we're in church and all that type of stuff. And then it was like God said, okay, you 2 bozos, you run one. Mm-hmm. And it was frightening and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2006, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And, if you've ever wondered why... Tim and Heidi now, they're both legends. Mm-hmm. The legends, right, is from the beginning. And you've done everything since then. Mm-hmm. You guys have led small groups.
And started Tab Women.
You started Tab Women. Mm-hmm. You've been a part of staff. There's seasons where you're working. Going back to school, how many degrees does Heidi have now? I asked, so you're not bragging. Yeah.
I have 3. A teaching degree, a physical therapy degree, and then 40 years later, a master's in social work.
Work, yeah. Counseling, huge thing. Sorry, you were going to...
No, I was just going to talk about Tab Women. So.
Well, and actually, I didn't start Tab Women. Kelly Faye did.
Oh.
She started Girlfriends Ministry.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, what the meetings were like or whatever, but, we had a couple things... and a retreat maybe, and then she was no longer able to do it, so I stepped in because I would have never picked the name Girlfriends.
Yeah.
I was recovering from. I wanted the basement people and the upstairs people to be equal.
Yeah,
and so I didn't want a pretty girl ministry. I wanted it to be
accessible. Yeah.
But then,
which is funny because you talk about the basement, and maybe I'm biased, but I feel like the Tabernacle is the closest church I've been to that feels like a basement church.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We don't always get it right, and that's why I'm so happy to have Tim and Heidi around because they're great governors on that, making it accessible.
Yeah.
So Britton, the way he said we're the Oakland Raiders of church ministry. So now I know the new thing to add to the lexicon, we're the basement of the basement of kind of church ministry.
Yeah, because that's what I knew, trying to do both things, that we all felt the same. We just needed to not be off-put by
Right.
wardrobe or makeup or whatever, either way.
Yeah.
And I remember planning a retreat. I was leading Bible studies too during the week. But I remember planning a retreat where we were going to have a panel that discussed, and one of the things that we were going to discuss was sexual abuse. And one team member was like, I don't know, is that really an issue?
My days.
Does that really, is that big a deal? And I glanced around the room in my brain going, there's 6 of us in the room and I know it's true for 5. I was like, yeah, I think it's probably more common than you think. Because I wasn't going to tell anybody else's story, but it's a thing.
We're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did, we grew women's ministry from, we always had a Bible study with childcare. It was Wednesday mornings. Yeah, so then where do you want to go from there?
I just have
I think we're there.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I just looking back at like how your first Christmas that your whole life you were like, well, that looks like fun. I'm going to go test that out. But you're always looking for fun, which is why, but it kind of was leading you to not the best places, right?
Yeah.
But your first Christmas, you realize that this man likes to play.
Yes.
And he's full of fun. So it was like you were searching for that. And then you made, you fixed the holes in his pants.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching you as you go through life of like helping with your dad and being the voice of reason to your siblings when they were going through that, the way that you have just the rippling effect of what you have done in this church has been phenomenal. I am have been honored to be a rippling part of who you are and who you've become in Christ and what you have allowed us women to continue. But
that's well said. You should be in this chair.
But you preserved the pants of Tim's, of his, so like I've seen a history of you preserving and being a steady piece amongst, for Tim, for your family, and for your sisters, and brothers, and just to hear, about that basement story, right? Like, that's Jesus. Like, those are the fishermen. Those are the salt of the earth. Like, and you have always said, and I've always guarded the space as I have walked with you of there is of equal footing, that it is a welcome. Everybody is welcome at this table because this table belongs to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in you. I have gleaned from you. And I am so grateful that God has placed you here in Buckley and to walk ahead so I can follow you as you follow Christ, And so just the amount of the rippling effect that you have given to so many people that I don't think you will ever fully understand. But I've seen it and I'm thankful for it. So
thank you.
One day.
Yeah.
One day we'll know.
Yeah. And I think the turning point for me, like I like being who I am now. And that hasn't always been true. Right. But Jesus said the first great commandment is love the Lord your God. And then love your neighbor as yourself. And if I don't love myself well in the way Christ wants me to love myself, then I've set the bar really low for you. And
a lot of people don't see that.
No, I've loved people like that before. Like, okay, great.
You're always the lover, but there's no love for yourself.
Yeah, and the verse that changed that for me was Zephaniah 3:17, where God says, "Is that a joyful choir I hear? No, it's the Lord God Almighty rejoicing over you in song." And I remember being at a church service in my 30s, hearing that verse and going, "Okay, God, here's the deal. I believe that I'll spend eternity with you. You said that. That's black and white. I believe it. I know why you'd want to spend eternity with Rachel or John or Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't know why anybody would want to spend eternity with me. So if you really mean that, God, you need to teach me why you'd want to spend eternity with me. And over the next 5 years, he taught me how to love myself. And it wasn't speedy. It was a slow, transforming thing. But then I'm going to be defensive for the people that still feel that way and go, yeah, none of us are going to put that on them, right? We're going to hold this wall, and I'm going to be very defensive in any legalism, religiosity, anything that looks like it's going to point to one of my people as less than. We're going to, how does Victoria say it? Throw hands.
Yeah.
We're going to throw
hands.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little, this has been awesome. And Rachel, that was perfect. Because if I'd have tried to said that, I'd have been a blubbering mess and needed one of these. And no one needs to see me ugly cry again.
I'm for it.
Come on,
you're for it. No, stop. You said it better. But let me give you a ripple. It's after a service a couple weeks ago. A gentleman wants to have a conversation, and we're talking, and his very tall friend is standing next to us. And at first, I didn't realize he was a friend because this is a pretty deep question that he's asking. And then I realized that they're friends. And so it's okay that he's in the hover position. You know, it's crazy. Some people, you know how it is in the lobby, somebody's pouring out their guts and the next person just listening. It's like, hey, take a step back here, you know, but he was a friend. And then the guy thanked me and I, double checked his name. But then the friend says to me, hey, wait, one more thing. What is the like he wanted the address in the scripture of the Great Commandment. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure it's on all 4 Gospels. I mean, you can find it real easy, but I can tell you what it says by heart. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And he goes, yeah, but what's the next part? And as you will love your neighbor as yourself. And he goes, yeah. And he starts putting his finger in that guy's chest. And he says, if you don't remember or learn how to love yourself, how are you ever going to love other people, buddy?
Right.
And you're claiming that you're loving other people, but you hate yourself. And he's going on and on and on, and I'm like, oh, this guy's doing it. Well done. And then he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I'm in therapy with Heidi. She taught me that. And I was like, oh, dang, there's a ripple. So you're welcome. That just happened. I kid you not. It was like 2 weeks ago. And so, but, I'm thinking, back to the song that has become your theme song. You quoted some of it. The story of a sovereign God who, even in our fears, we're taught to trust him. We have to give him our fears. Even the message this last week, it would just fit perfectly. And now Victoria wants to make it into a t-shirt, but on the mountain, in the valleys, there was Jesus. In the shadows of the alleys, there was Jesus. In the fire, in the flood, there was Jesus. Always is and always was. No, I never walk alone. You are always there. I'm thinking of that image of you having to sit on your child's chest while holding another and telling the other to go get the phone. In the waiting, in the searching, when you chose not to be the nagging wife, but instead to be the praying wife. In the searching, in the healing, in the hurting, like a blessing buried in the broken pieces. Every minute, every moment, where I've been, where I'm going, even when I didn't know it or couldn't see it, there was Jesus. And although Dolly and Zach did a great job, maybe it's time for us to pull a little seniority and say, we love when we hear Matt and Victoria singing again in church, maybe one of these times, because I think they slayed it. They slayed that song. But what a good song. What a biblical song. What a great theme song. I didn't see that coming when we did part 1, and I just thought it was appropriate since we titled it. We titled part 1, There Was Jesus.
Oh, okay.
So this will be There Was Jesus. maybe continued, or still there's Jesus. We'll figure it out.
T-O-O.
Yeah, but
Well, my little sister sent me that song at the beginning of the year, just shared it, and said she sends little encouraging things now and then. So my little sister Eve gets credit for that.
the shout out to Eve. Well done. Well done. You got anything else?
I'm all good.
That was powerful. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing that.
You're
We
welcome.
shouted out Joe Kelly. He usually gets a Joe Kelly shout out
Yeah.
at least every 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, thanks for sitting in with us.
Yeah.
You got any questions or any corrections? He's got no corrections.
Perfect.
And Rachel, that speech was worth the price of admission.
Thank you.
Couldn't have summed it up better, in my opinion. But thanks for giving God your yes, and you still do. There's still more. We could do a part 3 on just war. Maybe one of these times we need to have war stories and
Oh,
get
yeah.
Tim and Darcy in here, and let's talk about the war
Please.
stories. If you guys can convince my wife, because nobody puts a baby in a corner,
Right.
you know, so it'll have to be the girlfriend
She can do it.
that worked that one out.
Well, she's on one, right?
Oh yeah, she
Did
finally
great.
did one like Britain's farewell tour because Britain's like a son to us. She actually came on and corrected all the things. But we could do a whole war stories if it didn't hurt people.
Yeah.
Because we all just kind of learned together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of dinners where it's just us,
Good.
and there's more to the story. But Tabernacle family, if this has been a blessing to you, please share it, like, subscribe. Yeah, I don't know if the algorithms are still real, but I believe there's something in Heidi's story for most people, not just wives, women, most people. There's something in her story that you can learn, glean from. You still do counseling, and still that's her freshest degree, but she's one of our most highly recommended persons to talk to. Rachel as well, but you don't have to be a woman to go see Heidi. She's spoken into my life probably, other than my wife and mother, more than any other woman. So I appreciate you too. And it was yeah. You and Tim both. It's not about you, John. Ow, I'm still mad about that. But until next time, podcast family, this is Rachel Vore, Heidi Burgess, Lord Matthew, Corey Hughes, and John Vermilia signing off.